I was 20 years old before starting university. I decided to move in with my uncle Ethan and his wife Olivia to study architecture. I wanted to get away from where I lived and start fresh. Before moving, I thought everything would be the same as high school, just a bit more grown up. But here, everything felt different. My uncle Ethan, unlike all my other uncles, was really kind, extremely polite, and he always managed to stay calm no matter what. Olivia was a bit different, but their relationship and the way they lived always made me feel comfortable. However, over time, I started noticing certain things. Ethan's calmness and politeness made me feel different in a way I wasn't used to. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd get used to it, but sometimes I felt like something inside me was changing. Before I get into the story, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you can stay updated on what happens next. I'd been living with my uncle Ethan and Olivia for 3 months now. Everything was normal since I moved here to study architecture until that one night. That evening, when I came home from being out, I noticed something was a little off. When I walked into the living room in my short dress, Olivia immediately smiled and said, "You look great, Emma." But my uncle, as always, smiled kindly, continuing his meal as he quickly scanned me with his eyes. I noticed, but it was such a natural look that I didn't feel uncomfortable, just strangely affected. I felt something stir inside me. Throughout dinner, my uncle was speaking to Olivia the same way he always did, kind and polite. Olivia's laughter filled the room as they chatted. My uncle tried to say something to me a couple of times, but then held back. It reassured me. "Thanks," I said, not realizing how much I fidgeted every time my uncle looked at me. I wanted to believe he was just being polite, just as disciplined as he always was, but there was something in him that I couldn't deny. Later that night, as I lay in bed, the only thing on my mind was my uncle, his gentle glances, the usual way he carried himself, those moments when I felt his eyes on me. Yes, it was normal, but something was pulling me in. I didn't want to admit it, but that night, the way he treated me felt different. My uncle wasn't just polite, he was attentive and caring, more so than usual. Slowly, my eyes closed, but his image lingered in my mind. I drifted off to sleep, full of conflicting thoughts. Sunday morning came, and I woke up to the peaceful quiet of my room, the fresh air making me feel calm. I slowly got out of bed, still feeling the weight of the previous night, but my thoughts weren't gone. That moment, I remembered Ethan's face again and found myself in the shower. After a moderate shower, I stepped out, my hair still wet and feeling relaxed. I put on a comfortable t-shirt and shorts as usual and made my way to the kitchen. Olivia usually got up early and went shopping, so I always had breakfast with my uncle. But today, things were a little different when I opened the kitchen door. I found Ethan sitting at the table alone, having breakfast. He smiled slightly when he saw me. "Good morning, Emma," he said, his voice a bit softer than usual. "Good morning, Uncle," I replied as I grabbed my coffee. There was a moment of silence as Ethan turned to me. He said, "Olivia got some really bad news this morning. Her friend's mother passed away, and she had to suddenly go to another state to be with her. She won't be coming back today." He said this slowly, poking his fork into his plate. "She's really upset," he added, but the tone in his voice said more than just her sadness. I felt uneasy inside, but strangely, I also felt a sense of relief. The way Ethan spoke about Olivia, so calm, made me feel like my uncle was offering me something more than just politeness. His level of care, how understanding and thoughtful he was starting to mess with my head. The way he took Olivia's situation seriously, his attitude toward her, gave me an odd warmth. At that moment, my eyes went to him. "I understand," I said, managing a small smile. "Looks like it's just us today," I added, something stirring in my eyes. It still seemed like just a normal breakfast, but I couldn't shake this weird feeling inside. Ethan slowly took a sip of his drink, his eyes drifting to somewhere else for a moment. "Yeah, looks like it," he said with that calm but striking smile of his. There was nothing but calmness and peace, but also something that kept pulling me in as I tried to figure out what this moment meant. The quiet of the morning only seemed to make everything more intense. When I sat next to him, my heart started pounding. At first, I wanted to pull away, but my body, almost like it had a mind of its own, just stayed where it was. I moved closer to him, the space between us shrinking, and I could feel every part of my body becoming more aware of his presence. We were so close now that I could almost feel his breath on my back. Something inside me stirred, and it both bothered and attracted me at the same time. My eyes couldn't focus anywhere in the room except on him. What was I doing? I just wanted to sit next to him, but somehow I was getting even closer without meaning to. Had I really wanted this, or was my body leading me? Ethan stayed quiet, still calm, but the way I felt consumed by his closeness was making me realize something. I couldn't deny that I liked him. My eyes didn't leave him for a second. My lips were dry, my heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest, and my thoughts were becoming foggy. Everything was mixing together, fueled by the storm of emotions inside me. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. My eyes shifted to the empty space next to him, and without thinking, I moved even closer. That's when I realized I wanted this moment, this closeness, but it was hard to admit. Ethan didn't pull back. The silence stretched on, but it only made the feelings inside me burn even hotter. I felt so close to him, the seconds between turning to face him and meeting his gaze felt like a century. Should I say something? What should I do? But somehow, I had to take another step. One way or another, my body was telling me what I already knew, my heart wanted. Inside, I thought, what am I doing? But I pushed that thought away and just wanted to live in the moment. My uncle's eyes made me realize how different everything was. In that moment, it was impossible not to feel it. Slowly, I moved even closer, but this time it wasn't just a small move, it was something bigger. I whispered, I've never felt like this before. I don't know, Uncle, what is this? How am I really feeling? My voice was shaky, like I was lost for a moment. As Ethan listened to me, I thought he read it in my eyes. Maybe he understood what I was trying to say. I felt safe with him, but at the same time, I was scared. I couldn't describe what was happening, or what I was feeling. I couldn't put it into words, and this complicated feeling inside me was something that had only just started. These feelings, feeling like this, it's something else. I didn't expect to feel this way, Uncle. I continued, my throat tightening like something was stuck in there. Right then, everything seemed to be coming together. I couldn't figure out what I needed, but somehow I felt it. I just realized that all this confusion inside me, and the things hidden in my subconscious were finally starting to come to the surface. Unable to resist my body and emotions, I kissed Ethan. Ethan kissed me back and put one hand on my waist, pulling me a little closer. That meant it wasn't one-sided, and that really got to me. I pulled back a bit and our eyes locked. Ethan looked deep into my eyes, a complicated expression on his face. He stayed silent for a moment, like he was trying to choose his words. Then slowly and gently he spoke. Emma, he said, his voice showing how carefully he was listening and understanding. I think I can guess what you're feeling, and I feel it too. This isn't easy, I know, but I'm aware of this connection we share. This feeling, it's gone to a place we didn't expect. His words only deepened the chaos inside me. I didn't fully understand what he meant, but somehow I felt it deep down. It wasn't as simple or clear as I thought, but in that moment, we weren't just understanding each other with words, it was in our eyes and hearts too. Being this close to you, feeling this way, it's not normal, right? He continued. But sometimes, no matter how complicated things get, it's hard to accept what your heart really feels. As he spoke, his tone softened, becoming more fragile. He hadn't hidden his confusion from me, it was so obvious. We both knew exactly what we felt. As Ethan's words echoed in my heart, suddenly I heard a noise from outside. The door creaked, followed by footsteps. I realized Olivia was coming. My heart started racing, a wave of panic rose inside me. I thought I needed to move away, but something kept me in. Despite the panic, I couldn't move. Olivia's voice, surprisingly calm but sharp, cut through the tension as she stepped into the room. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone a little shocked, soft but sharp. Right then, I felt something inside me crack. Ethan quickly tried to compose himself, staying still, but I was so scared that even though I wanted to look away, I had to keep my eyes on him. Olivia's gaze seemed to know everything. I didn't know what to say. I was so shaken by the situation that I felt like nothing was right, like everything had gotten out of control. How could something like this happen so suddenly? How was I supposed to understand all this so quickly? Olivia's eyes shifted to Ethan, then back to me. "What's going on? Is there really something going on here?" she asked again, her eyes full of worry and a bit of suspicion. I was still standing there, not knowing what to say. My eyes were full of panic, but at the same time, the chaos I felt in my heart was heavy. As Olivia approached the door, she paused for a moment, then, as if she understood everything, she took a deep breath. Her eyes had caught onto everything that was going on in the room. Tilting her head slightly, she said, "You two need to figure this out between yourselves." Her voice was calm, but the weight of what she said hung in the air as she closed the door behind her. The uncertainty and chaos that had been lingering just a second ago was replaced by a deep silence. Ethan's eyes moved to me for a moment. Neither of us knew what to do, but I realized we had to make a choice. Standing still, my heart was racing, my mind was in a blur. I had no idea what I was feeling, or what I should do. Ethan's gaze on me was both warm and scary. "Emma," he said, his voice a little shaky, "I know what you're feeling, but doing something about this, having something between us, would that be right? Are we really ready for that?" His question suddenly made everything clear. It was like the chaos instantly turned into a truth. Were we really ready? After the emotional storm I'd been through with Ethan, would we finally figure out what needed to be done? We stood in silence for a while, feeling everything weigh down on us. "I've never felt like this before," I said, my voice trembling, almost too soft to hear. "This isn't normal, but I feel something for you, Ethan." Ethan took a deep breath, looked straight at me, and said, "I feel it too, but this is so complicated for both of us. What path do we take?" In just a few seconds, we realized we had to make a choice that would determine everything. On one side, there was emotional closeness, on the other, Olivia's words and our sanity. What should we do? There were two choices, but which one was the right one? If you've made it this far, I'm sure you're hooked on the story. There's so much more to come, and you won't want to miss it. Hit that follow button and turn on notifications, so you're the first to dive into my next mysterious tale. Your support means the world to me.